Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Thought live stream Q&A on Thursday evening at 6:15. I'm here with Vanessa Moreno, who is the manager of Thought Masters, our online community where we help people learn the things we talk about here and guide them through the process and interact and have a community. So before we get started tonight, I have two announcements to make. Christina and I, who may or may not be joining us, Christina and I have started two new podcasts, and I want to introduce them to you. The first one is called Reflections, and Reflections is a podcast we do where we talk about our last episode on Mastering Thought, the YouTube channel, and we reflect on the ideas that came up. And actually, this first Reflections that was just published is very fascinating because we had something very interesting happen in our conversation that we recorded last Monday, and we got to reflect on it together on Wednesday when we recorded Reflections, and I think people will be very interested. The other podcast I think is fascinating. It's called Deep Dive, and what Deep Dive is it's an AI-generated conversation about the latest episodes in Mastering Thought. So what I do is I take the manuscript and from the recording and I feed it into AI, and it comes out with this conversation between two people. And sometimes I think the conversation that the AI generates is more intelligent than the one that I do. So, but those are both available on YouTube. They're available on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. So look for those. Anyway, I've talked enough. Vanessa, what's on your mind tonight?
I have a lot on my mind, but for the purpose of our podcast, I won't share everything that's on my mind since we're learning how to master our thoughts. Because we're learning how to master our thoughts, not allow our thoughts to become masters of us. So, um, yeah, I'm excited to see where Thought Masters takes us. And I've been getting a lot of feedback from my own community and how just understanding such basic, simple concepts that weren't considered basic, simple concepts before learning them um, have truly impacted the way that they see themselves and the way that they've
Really?
seen the relationships that they've gotten themselves into. I've been able to share some of the wisdom from Thought Masters and just help others understand that they're not alone and
Wow.
that there is a lot of beauty in reflection, whether that reflection takes place internally or within community. So it's been very eye-opening for those folks that I speak with, because prior to conversations, it was just, let me just go on autopilot. This is how things are. Like the other day, I had a conversation with a friend who was sharing with me that he had attracted, the first girlfriend was chaotic, second girlfriend super chaotic too, cheated on him. And I said, you notice that there's a pattern there? And he just stopped in his tracks like, what are you talking about? And I was able to express just the subconscious nature of when we choose partners, of why is it that you continue to choose the same person? What do you think that's trying to resolve?
Interesting.
Dumbfounded. He's like, what is this? What are you talking about? This is mad. So it's very eye-opening for those folks, just because that's not something that they're open, not, and that's not even that they're not open to it. It's just it's not something that they've ever considered, because it's
Right.
not something that is mainstream. I mean, unless you're on Instagram trying to do some self-help and you're looking at psychologist and therapist post, or if you go on YouTube a lot, other than that, you might not have any clue of
No.
why you're in the relationship that you're in.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking about tonight, Mark.
Okay. That's very interesting. Um, if you want to join our conversation, just drop us a comment, and it'll pop up, and we'll pop it up on the screen here, and we'll talk about your questions or your ideas. When we exchanged text the other day, you said you were interested in that one particular video about how you could get more about awakening from a plumber than you could a guru,
Yeah.
and I'll tell the story about what inspired that recording. I was having a plumber over to put a new fitting on the end of a pipe that provides propane.
Mm.
And it was locked on there really tight. And I was standing there watching him, and I wondered how he's going to get this thing. It was all rusty and ugly. And what he did literally amazed me. What he did is he took a pipe wrench, which is not a crescent wrench. A pipe wrench it's the one with the teeth and the jaw.
Mhm.
And he tightened the fitting. And I thought,
Oh.
wait a minute, that's weird. After he tightened the fitting, he flipped the wrench over and very easily was able to unscrew the cap on the pipe. And he said it was a trick he learned from his father. And I suddenly realized that, a plumber uses very simple tools. Nothing's too complicated. But they use the tools in a way that's very elegant and solves problems. And who would ever have thought, if you're trying to get a fitting off a pipe, of tightening it first and then loosening it up? But what it does evidently is clear the threads or something. And it just occurred to me that's very similar to what we do, what I do in my practice, what we do on these live streams, is we teach people something very simple. And it's so simple that it's difficult to get across. That's how simple it is. And so the plumber analogy I thought was interesting. The other thing about it is, a plumber does a lot of unclogging.
Mhm.
And when you think about psychology, you mentioned it a minute ago, what's the psychological thing that clogs people the most? Well, it's their own thinking. And so that's what we do here on this channel, is we help people clear their thinking. And once the pipe is clear, the flow starts to happen.
I
It's
love that.
very poetic.
It is. I love the analogy because I mean, for me, I work through images. So that image alone that you shared in the video was mind-blowing. Like, wow. Um the way in which the way in which John the plumber was so focused on doing the job, clogging or unclogging everything. And then you had compared it to how in that moment Alex, the one that was viewing it, was like, wait, that's like it's like unclogging my own trauma, my own stuff that I just
Uh,
like. I want to be happy. Like, how do I unclog these things? But here's John the plumber going in to do the job. He's not overthinking it, like, oh my gosh, this is stressful, I've never seen this before, what am I
right,
gonna do, I'm stressed out. Nope, he just unclogged it, was so focused, used complex tools for a simple problem.
no, use
And
simple tools for a
or
complex
simple
problem.
tools for a complex problem, sorry. Yeah, and it was just, yeah, I loved how simple it was. And like right now you had mentioned um just how weird it was to see him tightening that part that you would think, wait, what are you doing? It's in the same likeness with thought masters. When we are given I guess the magic pill of what it is to be awakened, we think, no, it can't be that simple. It's like opposite
Right,
of what we think, which is the same of your analogy of where you are seeing that being tightened and you're thinking, no, what are you doing? And it's the same with when you are with your clients and you tell
right,
them, no, just be the observer. That's that. But and then later on you had mentioned that the ego gets in the way,
right.
and that dark ego is going to mess us up. And but all we really want is to just unclog all of the trauma that we have.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I'm gonna. I can see I'm jumping around here. I need to force quit some things here. Just give me a
Yeah,
second.
not a problem.
I think what happens is my CPU gets kind of overwhelmed, and hopefully by doing this, it will make the video flow a little better. I think that's better. Oh, let me do
That's
one
how I
more.
am. I can't stand to have so many tabs open. It gives me so much stress.
Okay, well, hopefully my image won't be jumping around anymore. So one of the things I was going through that episode today that you're referring to, and one of the distinctions we made in that was the difference between realization and learning.
Mm,
And it takes me back to your comment a few minutes ago. So really, when you think about it, it's two steps. Number one, people don't understand these psychological concept at all. When you talk to them, for instance, I had some clients the other day, a couple, they both had a lot of physical violence in their childhood.
mm,
Well, it never occurred to them that experience would have infected their relationship.
ugh,
So they're, and of course, I don't criticize them for that. Why would they?
yeah.
Because in our society we don't expose anybody to these principles, and even psychologists and therapists make it so convoluted it sounds like a mess anyway. It's very simple. It's very simple.
Yes.
If you raise a puppy in an abusive environment, you're going to get a dog that cowers or a dog that's mean. I mean, it's just this stuff is not complicated. Okay, so we have that level of uninformed people that do this psychological principles, emotional principles don't make any sense because they've never heard about it that way. Okay,
Right.
well then you have another layer of people who understand it.
Mhm.
They've learned it. They know what it means. Now here's the problem. If you stop at that level, then it's all head knowledge, but you can't put it
Mm,
into practice
yeah.
in the moment it's happening. And so what's really required is realization. And realization is not learning, it's a sudden flash of insight that comes where you realize something was there all the time, you just didn't see it. And so when we teach people our method here, moment mindfulness, and let me look at my deck and see, I don't see Christina's excellent depiction of this. It's on Thought Masters. If people are interested, they can check it out. It's very simple exercise of just noticing that you're thinking.
Mm,
And what happens as a result of doing the exercise is a realization. It's not learning. You're not learning anything.
yeah.
That's why people have so much trouble with it, because they're trying to create this idea of cause and effect.
Yeah.
If I do this, then this is going to happen. No, what really happens when you do the thought watching exercise is if you do the exercise, then a realization happens.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything. You just suddenly realize something. And
Yes.
that realization changes your whole life, changes
Absolutely.
everything.
And it also makes sense why a lot of us just don't understand that concept too, because if you think about it, think about grade school. It is ingrained that we learn something
Right.
before we do our homework.
Mm-hmm.
We're never taught presence.
Right.
So it makes sense why it's difficult for a lot of us to first understand what presence is, second, be in the present moment, and then third, be able to enjoy that present moment and just be and master it. Really, that's the end goal. So it makes sense why a lot of us don't understand why we just can't get this concept. We feel like we have to work toward it because that's That's what school is about. That's what life is about. That's what it is about when you get a new job. You have to learn something. There's never really any talk about presence. So I'm just realizing this right now. No wonder it's difficult for so many of us. And I know it was difficult for me. I've never really been taught to be present. I'm just on survival mode all the time. And
Right.
when I
That
first came across your videos a couple months back, it was like, what do you mean? I'm sorry. Like, all I have to do is just be present in that moment, become the observer. I'm sorry. No, I'm not buying it. And it wasn't until I just allowed myself to fully experience that and realize, oh, wait, that makes sense. And it makes sense why I would want to have this aha sudden realization moment, because it's so ingrained in us that we have to be taught a concept and then we master it. Like we just don't know how to just be.
well, the metaphor I use for this a lot of times when I talk to people, it's like one of those crazy illustrations you see on the internet, and it says there's a monkey in the forest, see if you can find it. And you look and you look and you can't see
Yes.
the monkey, and it's like, what is going on here? And
Oh.
then, your wife leans over your shoulder and said, "Oh, I see the monkey," and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to see this monkey." And then, boom! All of a sudden, there's the monkey.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't learn to see the monkey.
Mm.
You realize that the monkey is there. It's a moment of insight and realization that happens, and then from that moment on, you
Yeah.
cannot unsee that monkey. Every time you look at that illustration, you see the monkeys right there.
Yeah.
And that's the way awakening is. Awakening is not something you learn, it's something you see. And the moment you
Oh,
see
it's
it, you
so
can't unsee it from that moment
unseen.
on.
Could that potentially be a blockage for some of us folks who have been awakened in the sense that we understand a lot of what is going on in the background? We're self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Um we have that awareness. So being introduced to such a concept such as yours, could that also be a block, I guess, like a block of, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm already I know how to be self-aware.
Yeah, I hear that
Is
all the
that a
time,
potential
and
block? Uh-huh.
and one of the stumbling blocks is to think you already know.
Oh, dang. Ego. Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah, it all goes back to that.
Please.
And so, yeah, that's exactly, what you're talking about is exactly what I'm trying to say. So, we sit down, we have a discussion, and you tell me, yes, I'm self-aware, and I know my issues come from my mother or my father, and
It's
and
really,
I understand, and I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've done Kundalini meditation, and so on and so forth, and yeah, but your life is still in turmoil.
ah, yeah.
And the reason it is yeah, you understand it, but what's blocking you is your knowledge that you think you understand.
Mm,
And so this realization that comes from just this
yeah.
simple thought watching exercise creates a doorway into a world you've never been able to see. Let me put it to you this way. You said ego. Prior to awakening, the ego simulates awareness.
Can you repeat that again, please?
Prior to awakening, the ego simulates awareness.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
The ego's not for us.
And then after awakening,
Oh.
there's no simulation anymore. You know that you're aware. And you're aware in the moment it's happening, and you can see it. So it's not
Mm.
intellectual at all. And so one of the battles I fight with some types of people, like you're referring to, is they're seeking counseling, for God's sake. They're going through a divorce. Their life is not working. Their wife is going to divorce them because he's been an asshole for 15 years, and you can't live with the guy, but he knows. Yeah, I think I've done some of that. Yeah, I used to do a lot of meditating and yeah, I hear this all day long. And so
Yeah.
what I've got to do is finesse them and convince them that there might be more for them to see. and they need to just put all their knowledge aside and go back to the basics of what's really happening in their head. And that can be a real blockage.
Wow. So would you also say that awakening or your concept of the lion and the unicorn is a part of that awakening?
So the line, that's a very interesting question. I'm going to give you kind of a complicated answer. So
Beautiful.
so prior people who read my book, The Dance of the Lion and Unicorn, they change as they're reading the book.
Hmm.
And they realize, wait a minute, my relationship matches this pattern that he's talking about here. I can see that. Okay, now if they go through the awakening experience and they go back and read that book, it's like reading a whole new book.
Hmm.
Because, once the blinders are off, you can see so much more and so much deeper.
Beautiful.
And so, to a degree, the lion and unicorn is very powerful prior to awakening, but after awakening, it's even more powerful
Right.
because you can see it right in front of you going on all the time.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, think about it this. I have a couple come to me, and she's a lion, he's a unicorn. He's a long haul truck driver. Okay, what do I know right away? Why is he a long haul
Isolation.
truck driver?
He's a unicorn. They like being isolated from
That's right.
community.
That's right. He's an avoider. And so I know it. I can see it right away. Okay. Now, if I could step him through the awakening process, he would see it right away too.
Yeah.
And what happens when, let's just take in the instance of a couple, what happens when they come in and they go through the process of awakening, then they come back in, and as they're sitting there, they will start talking. They'll say, wait a minute, I'm justifying myself. And then they'll talk some more and they'll say, wait a minute, I'm rationalizing now. And what they're doing as the conversation is progressing is they're calling out the involvement of their own pride and ego that's trying to interfere with the communication, and they can see it as it's happening right in front of them. Oh, I'm making an excuse. Okay, I see what I'm doing.
Mm.
So it's
Wow.
it's it's a level of personal awareness that's just gigantic in comparison. So the lion and unicorn without that is very powerful and very helpful. But like you said before, we're still on autopilot. We got to get off autopilot.
Yeah.
And the only way I know to get off autopilot is to stop believing you're your thoughts.
Right.
Because autopilot's being driven by the narrative in your head. And if you still believe that's you, it's going to get you every time.
Absolutely.
Feel free to, ask us any questions or put comments in the comment box. I don't know what it looks like on the other side. There must be a little box somewhere where you can type in comments. And they'll pop right up and we'll shift to whatever you're asking. So does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. It does. And it's um I'm just considering the fact that there are so many of us that just need to be told that one detail to just
Mm-hmm.
change the way that they live.
Right.
I'll be honest, when I first came across one of your lion and unicorn videos, um, I immediately noticed um, the qualities that I possessed, and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to see my relationships as a result of that. So I would see, wow, okay, I'm the lion. And actually, in almost every relationship I have, I am the lion, because I know last time we did express how there are times that we can switch, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm predominantly a lion.
Yeah.
I get aggressive. I get aggressive when I think you're not listening and I think you're ignoring me. And now I'm just gonna keep being annoying and I want your attention. And but it wasn't until you gave me the words to be able to process what was happening that I realized, wow, so that's how I carry myself in the real world. That is how I'm perceived by my friends. And so it was very eye-opening in the sense that I no longer had to search for this meaning. Like it was just right there in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you're right. Like in real time, you can see, oh my goodness, I did that because I want attention, or I did that because she's
Exactly.
pulling away. Why is she pulling away? Why are you even asking yourself this question? Okay. And I just kind of drop it after that. And I'm realizing, wow, that it's so unconscious, but we just
Right.
don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, that's right. But the ego wants to tell us that we do know.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a problem.
It is. It is. The ego is always going to be our problem. And I think our ego is really what keeps us stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even heard from some couples that there's always that one partner, like you said, they do pretend to be that self-aware
Mm-hmm.
partner, but they just like to use therapy talk as a
Yes.
way to threaten their partner, as a way to feel like they gained the upper hand. And I've seen that in so many shows, in interviews, where there's that one partner that is total narcissist, or whatever other condition that might exist, and they just are so quick to put that other partner down, because oh, I this is your limbic system's going haywire or something. And it just makes you realize, wow, there are some of us folks that will pretend to be self-aware, but we're really not. We just want the upper hand. What does that mean? We're allowing our ego to take over, which is
Right.
sad. But
So a lot of
yeah.
people will come and they'll be exposed to the lion and unicorn, and they'll come back and the first thing they say is, "Well, I think I'm both a lion and a unicorn." And
That's what I thought.
what that means? What that means is they're really saying, "I don't want to do the work.
Mm,
I've already got this figured out."
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we throw up so many barriers for ourselves because we just won't come to anything with a clean slate,
Hmm.
you know. And our slate is all cluttered with these agendas and I'll just say to them, when they start pontificating about all they've known. Well, I read the books and I did this and I did that. Then I will say, well, why are you here? Why'd you come to therapy? Sounds like you've got it handled. What the heck? You
I
know?
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I still need to, whatever. And so
Mhm.
it's, but most people will settle down and
Yeah.
see the bigger picture. But
Right.
but then when you present them with the fact that their internal dialogue is sabotaging their life, and there's a really simple way to fix this, now you've got another battle with their ego because they don't want it to be simple.
Yeah.
And I'll spend an entire session saying, okay, here's how this works. Here's how the brain works. This is where it comes from. This is how it operates. And here's a simple exercise that you can do that will lead to a light bulb moment where you suddenly see how this works and you're free of it. And then they'll look at me and say, okay, well, is there any other homework you have for me?
Wow. You're like, did you not hear a word I just said?
Ex- exactly,
Wow.
exactly. So yeah, it's the human condition is a little tough.
It
It's
is
real tough.
rough out here. Yeah.
And so yeah,
All I can think about is just when you don't want to do the work, how you just miss the opportunity for so many connections.
well,
You miss the
that's
opportunity to connect with yourself, the opportunity to connect with others, to connect with your loved ones, to connect with new people. You just miss every opportunity because
that.
you're reluctant to just be present, and your
And
ego is just has a hold on you.
it makes me sad. It's just like
Yeah.
this couple I was telling you about. They came for a couple sessions, and I kept presenting this to them and explaining to them what was going on. I mean, it was very obvious. They both came from pretty tough backgrounds, and it was interfering, and I was explaining this all to them. They just dropped out of therapy, and it's hard to let that go.
Yeah.
When you know it and you can see it and you want to give them the gift of being free of it, and they just won't take the opportunity. No.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
So I think a lot of people, when they think of therapy, they think, oh, they're going to have a conversation with somebody and they're going to unburden themselves and they're going to feel better. And when they come to me, that's not the case. I don't want to hear their story. I want them to learn these principles so they can get out of their story. Somebody asked me one time, isn't it difficult to listen to, people's pain all day long? And I say, well, I'm not trying to improve the dream that they're in. I'm trying to give them a better dream.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
So, what other questions come up?
I just wanted to ask if you could do a quick run through of what it looks like to even begin this process. I'm not sure where a lot of our viewers are at, and even maybe this might be their first video, this might be their third. If you could just give us a quick rundown of what it means to start that awakening process.
It starts with a very simple exercise, and you don't even have to understand anything. Just do the exercise. So right now I'll use you as a guinea pig. Just wait for the next random thought to come into your mind. Maybe it's, I need to get my hair trimmed on Saturday, or I wonder how hot it's going to be tomorrow, or whatever comment comes to your mind. A lot of times the comment that comes to people's mind is, I'm not going to do this right. What does he want me to do? Or what if I don't have a thought? Well, that is the next thought.
That is the thought.
Yeah. And so Vanessa, as you're sitting right there, just wait for the next thought to come into your mind. And when you notice that there is a voice in your head speaking words, the instant you notice that, what happens to the voice?
It stops.
Exactly. It stops. Now, what you've just done is started a rewiring of the front of your brain by doing that exercise. So you're enhancing the part of the brain that is self-aware, and as soon as you focused on the thought, it shut off the part of the brain that is the narrator and the storyteller. So let me ask you a question. When the voice in your head went away, are you the thinker or the observer?
The observer.
Exactly. And so what this exercise does is it just teaches you that you're the observer and not the thinker, and eventually a disidentification takes place. It only takes a few days. And all of a sudden you realize that voice is not me. And now you're free. Yeah. It's very simple. Now, there's some rules. The number one rule is and this is what's so difficult for people. The number one rule is I only want you to do this on trivial, everyday, simple thoughts. We want to avoid thoughts that have any involvement with fight or flight, because we don't want to battle that arousal. No. All we want to do is become the observer of our thought, and the easiest thoughts to observe have no emotion.
Yeah.
So, maybe the thought is, oh, that's a nice color blue in his shirt. So we're making these comments thousands of times a day in our head.
Yeah.
We're just picking the ones that are neutral, that have no emotion, and we're just noticing that we're thinking, and by noticing, we're creating the separation between the observer and the thinker, and eventually that becomes permanent. And when it becomes permanent, we go free. Yeah. Was that the thing you were looking for?
Yes, that was.
I mean, this is vital. If you really want to get out of your head and get into the real world instead of the pretend world, You know, imagine you and I went to the top of the mountains, and we get to the top of the mountain. There's this gigantic red tree, and you've never seen one of these things before. You're just awestruck, hundreds of feet in the air.
Yeah.
You're just stunned by this tree. Meanwhile, I'm standing next to you thinking of the word sequoia. Well, you're experiencing a tree. I'm experiencing a word.
Wow. Yeah.
This is the human condition. We're not living life, we're thinking life. We're lost in a world of mental abstraction, talking to ourselves all the time. And we
Ew,
think the
that
we
sucks.
think we think the
Like,
experience of life is the experience of the commentary about the experience of life.
mhm.
That's why we're not present, because we're always one step removed from reality because we're commenting on it to ourselves all the time. And it's the
Yeah.
comments that are the important thing to us instead of the
Yeah.
actual experience of what is.
Right.
Does that make
Wow.
sense?
That's a beautiful way to put it. And
Yeah.
wow, yeah, we are all in our heads. And
Yeah.
I think about like you saying that, I'm thinking of wow, imagine the many other hikers that are looking at those sequoia trees. What are they thinking? So it makes you want to have that much more compassion for people. So I guess an example that comes to mind is a mother who's thinking about, man, this trip was a lot of money with my four babies. This is really stressful. One
Right.
kid is like, Mom, why weren't you listening to me? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, what? Like, she wasn't even looking at the tree.
Mm-hmm.
If that child was saying, Hey, Mom, look at the tree, look what I can do, she was not present because she's in her head. And I'm not blaming her. I'm not even upset with her. It's just, it makes you want to have that much more compassion for people because we are all in our heads. And so
Yes.
it would be so beautiful if every single person we connected with was truly present with what was happening before them.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of us that feels so far-fetched,
Well,
and
you
it
can
goes
you,
right back to
you can tell when you
Mhm.
talk to them they're not present because they're in their head talking
Yeah,
to themselves and rehearsing what they're going to say next instead of listening to you.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
little bit of a problem.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
And I was that person for the longest time. I always, as soon as I was engaging in a conversation with someone, it was an immediate, oh yeah, but did you think of this? Like it wasn't like, whoa, Vanessa, I'm just talking. Like I didn't need you to say anything. I just wanted you to listen. But okay,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and give me your opinion that I didn't ask for. So we're always waiting to give that next response, or we're waiting
Right.
to um oh, this is what you should do, rather than, wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And like having that space. I don't think I've ever had a conversation that has space in between just to be present, because we're
Mm-hmm.
just so quick to, what are my thoughts saying, and what is the next thought that I can get out to you before this
Right.
conversation ends.
And life is perfect unless you think about it.
Wow. See, I even was starting to think about it. Wait. Wow.
So
Yeah.
we're getting close to wrapping this up. If anybody who's listening has a question or comment before we sign off for the evening. By the way, Vanessa, you've mentioned presence several times.
Yes.
I am working on a three-part series we're going to put on Mastering Thought on the structure of presence.
Cool.
And this has to do with how presence emerges from the quantum field, and we're going to have some fun with it. About two
Cool.
months ago, maybe three, we did a series on the present moment, and this is a refinement of that. And I've got a whole new model to present of how to explain this. And so I'll be recording part one on Monday, and I'll be anxious to get some feedback to see if it kind of comes together for people because it's kind of revolutionary in a way.
Absolutely. I feel like once I feel like presence can have so many different facets to it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
something that we can just keep talking about because none of us really know what it is. It
Right.
feels like that unknown present that you're just waiting to open up on Christmas Day. Like, what is that? I need to know. And I feel like presence it works in the same way. Like, what is that? It just feels so far fetched.
Uh-huh.
But once you open it, it's like, wait, it was there this whole time. I just had to open it up.
Well, hopefully we'll teach you how to do that. So,
Yeah, I'm
are there
excited.
are there any questions from the audience at all before we wrap this up? Don't forget to check out the Deep Dive podcast. You'll find this on our YouTube channel, Mastering Thought, also on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple, and also our other new podcast called Our Reflections. And I think you'll enjoy both of them. If you're driving around, kind of looking for, a place to park your car, you can run this in the background, and I think you'll really get a kick out of what we put together. I think it's very interesting. All right. Vanessa, thanks so much for being here. I really enjoy the work you're doing on Thought Masters. That's a great community. We've got some
Thank
wonderful
you.
resources, hidden gems in there. And by the way, Christina is starting a book club on Thought Masters. So if you're
Yay.
interested in the book club, I think what they're going to be doing is reading chapters of a book and then dialoguing about it and so forth. And
Beautiful. I love dialogue.
I know she wants to get some members involved in that. So,
Yeah,
all
it's
righty, we'll
exciting.
wrap this up and we'll see you next Thursday at 6:15.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Bye.
Bye bye.